should say a majority of the 475 arrested are South Korean.
ICE says additional arrests are possible. London police arresting scores of demonstrators outside Parliament. The protesters gathered to defy a ban on the group Palestine Action, which Britain declared a terrorist organization. The demonstrators shouted at police, "Pick a side, justice or genocide." America's listening to Fox News.
From around the world,
Trey Yingst, joining us from Tel Aviv, Israel.
To Washington,
I'm Mike Emanuel.
To your own backyard. If a story impacts you or your wallet, we're on it. It's the Fox News Rundown. We give every story the deeper look it deserves with must-listen interviews and smart analysis from the voices you can trust. Start your day with the Fox News Rundown. Listen and follow now at foxnewsrundown.com or wherever you get your favorite podcasts. From the Fox News Podcasts Network.
Hey, this is Trey Gowdy, host of the Trey Gowdy Podcast. Every Tuesday, you'll hear what's on my mind. Plus, every Thursday, there's a special bonus episode where we answer the questions that are on your mind. Make sure to spend your Tuesdays and Thursdays with Trey. Subscribe now at foxnewspodcast.com or wherever you download podcasts. Hope to see you.
America's listening to Fox News.
Tensions.
93 WIBC Mobile News. On the level, on the go.
Claiming crime in the city is down. I'm Jarrett Lewis. Here's what's trending this hour. Violent crime is down in Indianapolis, with police reporting steady declines across nearly every category through the first 8 months of 2025.
There are unfortunate incidents, but frankly, unfortunate incidents occur all over the town.
After breaking ground on the Indiana Fever's new practice facility built on the site of the old Marion County Jail, Mayor Joe Hogsett said the city's drop in murders, shootings, and property crimes reflects broader national trends. About 50 guardsmen with the Indiana National Guard are being deployed to assist in ICE operations. The Guard says those members will be ready to help with administrative and logistics-related tasks by the middle of this month. The deployment is part of a nationwide effort to support ICE. Of the handful of winners in Indiana from Powerball's drawing Wednesday, a mother and daughter from Porter County took home $150,000. Helen and Robin pooled together $40 to buy some Powerball tickets at a convenience store in Chesterton, and they hit big. Saturday night's Powerball jackpot is for a cool $1.8 billion, the second largest jackpot in U.S. lottery history. And the Indianapolis Colts will be inducting late owner Jim Irsay into their Ring of Honor during halftime of Sunday's game.
Honoring Mr. Irsay, I think there's a lot more to it. Obviously, week one with him going into the Ring of Honor, and honoring this season. It'll be a big week one for us as a team.
That's head coach Shane Steichen talking about that. Kickoff between the Colts and the Dolphins set for 1 o'clock Eastern time. Daniel Jones is getting the start at quarterback. I'm Jarrett Lewis on the level, on the go, and on WIBC.com. Now the forecast from the American Standard Cooling Weather Center.
Mostly sunny, high temperatures cooler than average in the lower 70s. We'll continue a dry streak through much of next week with no rain chances. Temperatures eventually get back into the 80s midweek. I'm Wish TV Storm Track 8 meteorologist Ryan Morse for 93 WIBC.
My name is Juanita Segura, and I was diagnosed in November of 2014 with non-small cell lung cancer. The first time I heard about biomarker testing was actually my husband. He just started researching about lung cancer.
And I found out about biomarker testing, and I'm like, why not? Let's try it.
I'm Dr. Jorge Gomez, thoracic medical oncologist at the Mount Sinai Hospital. Comprehensive biomarker testing is looking for either substances in the blood or mutations in some of the genes of the cancer cells that can help us identify special types of lung cancer that can be treated with what we call targeted therapies.
Letting my children know brought all of us a sense of hope. To give them hope that mom is going to be around to see you grow up. And I promised them that.
Ask your doctor about how comprehensive biomarker testing before treatment may help you and your doctor decide on the best treatment for you. Visit noonemiss.org for more.
A public service message from Longevity Foundation.
You let him try violin because you love him. And if you love him that much, love him enough to make sure he's buckled up and in the back seat. Find out more at nhtsa.gov/the-right seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. This is the Second Amendment, and this is the Gun Guy.
Boom, 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 boom. Bang, 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 bang. Boom, 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 boom. Bang, bang, bang.
With Guy Relford on 93 WIBC.
Well, good afternoon, and welcome to the Gun Guy Show here on 93 WIBC. We're thrilled you're with us. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful Saturday afternoon. I'll tell you what, I had every intention of going out and busting some clays. I'm shooting in a fundraiser for Salvation Army. I've talked about it here on the show. If you haven't signed up, if you just Google Clays for a Cause, Salvation Army, September 11th, I believe there are still just a few spots available. That's going to be out at Indiana Gun Club. It's kind of my home club where I learned how to shoot sporting clays not so long ago. I was a late bloomer. I don't know if I've actually bloomed any, but I was a late adapter anyway of finding that sport. Fell in love with it right away. Can't get enough of it now. I just don't get the opportunity to shoot as much as I wish. But if you'd like to come out, you don't have to have any experience. I mean, none. My first tournament of any kind, it was 3 days after I even understood what sporting clays meant, what the sport even involved. I went out and shot in a political fundraiser at Indiana Gun Club. And I've been a shotgun instructor for a long time, but my shooting was all defensive shotgun. Had no idea about sporting clays. I literally didn't know what it was. I had asked the gentleman, Judge Poindexter, Brian Poindexter from Carmel, great gentleman, great judge, asked me to come shoot on his team. And I said, well, sure, absolutely. But what the hell are sporting clays? And he explained to me what they were, actually took me out that afternoon and kind of showed me how the sport works. And I completely fell in love with it. The first time I saw one of those clays, one of those targets just evaporate. I mean, it took me a couple, but by the time I hit one squarely and it just turned into orange dust, I was hooked from that moment on. But if you haven't signed up yet, check it out. Clays for a Cause, Salvation Army, raising money for at-risk and underprivileged kids to attend a camp that is owned and created and run by Salvation Army out in the Brookville area. It's a beautiful place where kids can go and have a safe space, enjoy the summer weather. And they need our funding. They need our help for this place to operate and to give those kids that opportunity. So check that out at Clays for a Cause. You can just Google it, and it'll come right up. And at any rate, I wanted to get out and practice a little bit today, but then college football kind of took over, and I wasn't able to pry myself away from the TV that my wife and I had. We out on the deck out in back of my house. We pulled the TV out there and enjoying some football on a beautiful afternoon. Got to watch IU, as expected, dominate Kennesaw State. And then about that time, even before that game was over, it's time to head downtown, get ready for radio. But hope you enjoyed that. A lot in the news on the Second Amendment front. And a lot of it's interesting. Some of it's concerning. But what I've gotten a lot of posts about, I mean, messages, people sending me links. A lot of people are commenting on this idea that the Department of Justice is considering making anyone who is, quote-unquote, transgender, making them a prohibited person under federal law, which currently, the way the law reads and the way the law operates, if you've been adjudicated to be mentally defective, that's the term in the federal statute. You want to look this up, you can Google it, it'll come right up. It's 18 U.S.C. 922 G4. And this is kind of the list of prohibited possessors. And, G1 is if you're a felon, actually defined as you've been convicted of a crime punishable by over 1 year, which is how we define felonies. And the list, conviction for a misdemeanor crime of domestic violence, that's listed. A whole bunch of other things are listed that make you a prohibited possessor. This is under the Gun Control Act of 1968 as amended by the Brady Bill, and then later there was something called the Lautenberg Amendment, and that's what gave us this list of federal prohibitors. But one of them is if you've been adjudicated to be mentally defective. Well, what's mentally defective mean? Typically and historically, that's meant that you were involuntarily committed to a mental institution based on a finding that you're a danger to yourself or others. And listen, we all understand what's motivating this, what's getting the Trump administration to look at this, and why the Trump administration has apparently directed the Department of Justice to seriously consider making anyone who's quote-unquote transgender a prohibited person. That is, they have lost their Second Amendment rights, may not own a gun. Under this federal statute, basically because they've been adjudicated to be mentally defective. Well, does that really work? Well, the ATF, as it tends to do, and this is what gets the ATF in trouble and what the courts have largely pulled back on, forced the ATF to drop a lot of its rulemaking. It looks at the statutes that it operates under and that it enforces, and then it promulgates rules. I mean, that's what gave us the bump stock ban, was a rule passed by ATF. That's what gave us the so-called stabilizer brace, pistol stabilizer brace ban. That was an ATF rule. And any number of others. Those aren't acts of Congress. Those are rules passed by ATF, and there's always questions. One, is it constitutional? Two, is it consistent with the statute passed by Congress that the ATF is regulating under? And there have been ATF rules that have been set aside, found illegal, found unenforceable, and or found unconstitutional under both arguments. The pistol stabilizer brace ban, what a lot of us called it, basically meaning if you put a pistol stabilizer brace on your AR pistol or similar, a K pistol, shotgun that wasn't really a shotgun because it was a non-shotgun that wasn't designed to be fired from the shoulder, et cetera, ATF rule that said, oh, well, you have to register those as short-barreled rifles or short-barreled shotguns, and if you don't, you're looking at 10 years in federal prison. That was set aside based on a determination that they didn't follow the rules that is set forth in what's called the Administrative Procedures Act on how they pass regulations that have to be consistent with and not change, not alter the words of Congress as passed by Congress and the actual statute involved here. So what apparently the administration is now considering is a rule that says, well, we think you fall within the mentally defective category of prohibited persons if you're transgender. And this comes about because of another rule passed by ATF. You can find this if you're interested. You want to pull up your Google, exercise your Google foo, as several of my friends like to call it. 27 CFR, that stands for Code of Federal Regulations. CFR, Code of Federal Regulations. 27 CFR 478.11. There you go. Pull it up. What it says, you're also considered to be mentally defective if you've been determined, quote unquote, to have a mental illness, end quote. That someone, including some bureaucrat, has determined means you cannot manage your own affairs. And that, as far as I know, and I follow this very, very closely, has never been examined in terms of its constitutionality, or whether it's even consistent with a statute which says adjudicated to be mentally defective. And that's an important point. So, after the Minneapolis mass shooting, school shooting, church shooting, it was both. Kids are sitting in church as part of attending a Catholic school on the same grounds, and a person who was transgender, was a biological male, living as a female, claiming to be a female, and wrote a manifesto, so we know a lot about this person's motivation, decided to shoot up this church as a bunch of little kids were in there praying and worshiping. About as despicable an act as you can possibly imagine. But and this prompted, I've seen a lot of memes out there. I've seen a lot of posts on social media, and some I just don't think are at all accurate. I saw a meme that said something like the last 6 school shooters have all been transgender. And it started listing them off. And it listed shootings. I don't know if it was school shootings, mass shootings. But they listed, like, the Denver theater shooting. I followed that very closely. I've never seen any indication that person was, quote-unquote, transgender. They were certainly odd, had purple hair, as I recall. And there were several, and I looked at each of them and said, hold on, and did a little work on the Google foo, to go back to that term, and I couldn't confirm that several on these lists were actually, quote-unquote, transgender. And part of that is because we don't really have a good definition. Have they ever dressed up in the clothing of the opposite sex? Have they, if they're a male, they worn makeup we associate with females, worn wigs. Again, dressed like them. I mean, how are we defining this? I don't know. But a lot of people have contacted me and said, hey, Guy, how do you feel about this? We're going to ban transgenders from possessing firearms in this country, potentially. Now, there's not been any final determination on this. The Department of Justice apparently just announced they're considering this. I think they have their finger in the air a little bit, trying to determine the direction of the wind, the political winds. And I'm sure they've got lawyers examining the legality of this. I'll tell you what, it's a little after. We'll take a break here. We'll come back. I'll tell you exactly how I feel about potentially creating this huge category. I don't know about huge. I mean, transgenders are a relatively small percentage of the United States population. That really isn't the point, and that's not, to me, even relevant in the legal analysis of whether this is constitutional or not, or whether it's consistent with the Administrative Procedures Act because it's consistent with the statute that the ATF is regulating under. But to set those aside, just how do I feel about it? Assume for the sake of the discussion it would be constitutional, which I highly doubt, and that it's consistent with federal law generally on the promulgation of rules by an administrative agency in the executive branch. We come back, I'll tell you exactly how I feel about it, and I'd love to get your thoughts as well. Give us a call. As always, love when our listeners join the conversation, 317-239-9393. 317-239-9393. Give us a call, join the discussion. We'll be back with my views on this point when we come back. This is Guy Relford on The Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC.
President will change the name to Department of War.
93 WIBC Mobile News.
Chronic disease in our children went up to 76%, and you said nothing. I like the fact that he's different.
D.C. Attorney General filed a lawsuit against the Trump administration.
Another update is just minutes away.
Terrorist gang members transporting illegal drugs.
What happens next?
A shooting on South Meridian Street
happens here.
Unfortunate incidents occur all over.
Stay in the know.
Clark will have to miss the remainder of the season
while you're on the go.
Guy Relford for Tactical Firearms Training. Our next Essentials of Indiana Gun Law class is coming up 2 weeks from today. It's coming right up, September 20th. It's going to be at Indy Arms on the northeast side of Indy, 2550 East 55th Street. This is 5 hours of the most important legal information you need as an Indiana gun owner. If you carry a gun, if you even have a gun at home, don't you have to know when you can pull that gun, when you can point that gun at someone, and certainly when you're justified and legal under the law of Indiana in using deadly force in self-defense or defense of another person. Those are the kind of cases I handle as an attorney. I have many of those pending right now. It's what I've been doing for a long time, and that's what we get into, and a lot more. How do you avoid commonly prosecuted crimes like criminal recklessness with a deadly weapon, intimidation with a deadly weapon, and a crime, and here we have in Indiana, called pointing a firearm. Interestingly enough, what a lot of people don't know is we don't actually have a crime in Indiana called brandishing, but we have crimes that are very similar to that, including intimidation with a deadly weapon. All that and a lot more for 5 full hours coming up next on September 20th. We'd love to see you there. It's $50 for an individual, $95 for couples. You can sign up right online at tactical-firearms.com. Just click on upcoming courses at tactical-firearms.com.
Do you have an idea for a book, fiction, nonfiction, or a children's book? We can help you put it together and bring it to market at Dorrance Publishing. We have thousands of testimonials from people just like you that we've helped get their books sold in stores and online. We've even got a service called The Writer's Coach. It's perfect for people that have a book idea in their head and they just need someone to help them put it on paper. Torrance Book Publishing has been helping people just like you who have a book idea, written or not, for over 100 years. Imagine being counted among the most famous authors in the world with your very own book. Call right now and let us help you turn a book idea into reality. It's easier than you think. You just need a little help. Call us now.
800-879-4098. 800-879-4098. 800-879-4098. That's 800-879-4098.
Guy Relford here. Time again for the Indy 1500 Gun and Knife Show this coming weekend at the State Fairgrounds, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. There's never been a more important time to exercise our rights as true Americans. It's the Indy 1500 Gun and Knife Show. See the best in sporting, hunting, and personal protection gear, plus great displays of Americana. Come see us this weekend at the Indy 1500 Gun and Knife Show, Friday 2 to 7, Saturday 9 to 6, and Sunday 9 to 4. It's the Indy 1500 Gun and Knife Show. See you there.
Attention Indiana homeowners. Are you dealing with a wet and moldy crawl space? Hi, I'm Adam Swain with Swain Co. Crawl Space and Basement Repair, your real, local, Indiana family-owned experts dedicated to fixing your crawl space right the first time. And with our new no interest, no payment financing, you can get the repairs you need without breaking the bank. Don't let crawl space water problems dampen your spirits. Call Swain Co., Indy's most trusted waterproofing experts at 317-407-1868 or swaincollc.com.
Listen up, football fans. You won't want to miss this.
Right now, new Bet365 customers bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets, win or lose. So you could turn that $300 into something bigger when you bet on money lines, spread, totals, player props.
$300 in bonus bets when new customers bet $5. I know where I'm going to bet from now on. Download the app today and see why it's never ordinary at Bet365.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-9-WITH-IT. 21 plus only. Must be physically located in Indiana. T&Cs apply. In-app only.
We play fair in Indiana, but Washington insiders want to cheat. They want taxpayers to spend millions to redraw legislative maps approved just 4 years ago. That's not democracy. It's a power grab, and they're hoping you won't notice. Thankfully, some of our leaders are saying no to D.C. politics. Tell politicians Hoosiers don't cheat. Protect our votes and get back to focusing on our real problems. Join the team at playfairindiana.com. Paid for by Indiana Conservation Voters.
Why choose a Sleep Number smart bed?
Can I make my site softer?
Can I make my site firmer?
Can we sleep cooler?
Sleep Number does that. Cools up to 8 times faster and lets you choose your ideal comfort on either side. Your Sleep Number setting. It's the final days of Sleep Number's biggest sale of the year. All beds on sale. Up to 50% off the limited edition smart bed. Ends Monday. All Sleep Number smart beds offer temperature solutions for your best sleep. Check it out at a Sleep Number store or sleepnumber.com today.
Kirby Heating. We have over 40 years of experience to help during your time of need. Call or go to kirbyheating.com.
Kirby Heating and Air is your trusted local independent American Standard heating and air conditioning dealer.
The Indianapolis Public Library. More than just books. Visit your local branch today.
Second to none on the Second Amendment. This is The Gun Guy with Guy Relford on 93 WIBC.
And welcome back. I'm Guy Relford on The Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC. So as I mentioned in the first segment, Trump administration is reportedly looking at banning transgenders, however that group is defined, from possessing firearms. And listen, this kind of vague term of adjudicated to be mentally defective. And now through rulemaking, ATF has ostensibly expanded that to include if you've been determined to have a mental illness. To use that to say, well, if you don't understand what gender you are, you must have a mental illness. Well, that part of it, I don't strongly disagree with. I have used those terms myself. Gender dysphoria, that is confusion on what the hell gender you are, is a recognized mental illness. That part of it, don't have a problem with. My problem is with the ATF rule to begin with, because it's not consistent with the federal statute. And to the extent the federal statute is too damn broad and ambiguous anyway, it may very likely be unconstitutional, not only under the Second Amendment, but also under the 14th Amendment, which requires those statutes that define crimes. Because keep in mind, if you fall into one of these prohibited possessor categories and you nonetheless possess a firearm, you're looking at 10 years in federal prison. So to say, well, the statute that says if you've been adjudicated to be mentally defective somehow applies to anyone who has any form of mental illness, notwithstanding whether there's been any determination that they're actually dangerous or not. And keep in mind, in the Rahimi case out of the Supreme Court not so long ago, which went against us in terms of Second Amendment advocates, but a lot of us predicted this. I called out this likely outcome and predicted it specifically. That is, it was a guy who was under a domestic violence order of protection, and he'd gone through a hearing. And a judge had determined, yes, you're a credible threat to this lady who wanted the domestic violence order of protection issued against you in Texas. And based on that determination by a judge that you're a credible threat to another person, you can be deprived of your Second Amendment rights. And that's not inconsistent with the Second Amendment. Now, I've seen people describe that opinion to say you can only be deprived of your Second Amendment rights if there's been a determination that you're a credible threat to another person. That's not quite what the Supreme Court said. I'd be a little happier if that's what they did say, but that's not exactly what the opinion says. They said in this case that he was determined to be a credible threat. On that basis, he can be deprived of his right to possess a firearm without violating the Second Amendment. I think that gives us important guidance. And what I would argue in court is that that's a very, very important consideration in determining what's constitutional and what's not. And then there's the whole definition of mental illness. For instance, I get this call all the time when you're filling out your application for a license to carry a handgun on the state police website. There's a very broad question. It's designed to be very broad. It says something like, have you ever been treated for any mental illness? And then people call me and they say, man, I don't want to lie on this application. And because, well, for instance, in my teen years, I was treated for depression and I was prescribed an antidepressant. Some people call me and they say they're still on antidepressant. And my God, I haven't done this research, but what percentage of this country is on some medication that can be categorized as an antidepressant? It's huge. If somebody told me there was 8 to 10% of the entire U.S. population on some form of antidepressant, I'm not telling you that's the number. I'm telling you I would not be surprised if it was the number. How many people you know? How many people in your family? It's huge. So people are very concerned. They say, well, either I was back in the past prescribed an antidepressant or I'm taking an antidepressant now. Does that mean I can't own a gun? And if I answer yes on that question on the state police website for my application for a license to carry a handgun, am I going to get denied? Well, the answer to the latter question is yes, if you don't provide some additional documentation. And typically what state police are looking for is some documentation from a mental health professional who has seen you, preferably lately, who says they've looked at you and you're not a threat to yourself or others. They've seen no indication to date, and that's a standard mental health professionals are used to dealing with because there are ethical and legal obligations that kick off if they do think you're a danger to yourself or others, which we won't go into now. It's not really central to this conversation, but they're used to dealing with that standard. So somebody says, yeah, I've seen Guy for the last 6 years, and I've treated him for this or that condition, and to date, I've seen no indication he's a danger to himself or others. You upload that as part of your application for Indiana license to carry handgun, and you get your license. I've gone through that a number of times. People have called me, and I handle appeals from denials all the time, and the people down at State Police do a fabulous job on these, and they're a pleasure to work with. They're consummate professionals down there, and they're a delight to work with. And I don't say that about all the other people in the legal field that I have to deal with on Second Amendment issues. But the state police, they have good people working down there. And we can work through those issues. So a person may or may not, depending on how broadly you define mental illness, but let's say they've been treated for depression. They're currently taking an antidepressant. Have they been treated for a mental illness? You decide the honest answer to that is yes. Should they still be denied their Second Amendment rights? Hell no. Do I think you have some form of mental illness if you don't understand what the hell gender you are? Yes, I think you do. And I've said that. I've said it publicly. Does that mean I think anyone who considers themselves to be quote-unquote transgender, in other words, they were born with male genitalia and a male DNA constituency in terms of chromosomes they have in their body, do I think if they identify as something different than what they are physically, do I think they have some form of mental illness? I would say yes. Aha. So Guy thinks they should be deprived of their Second Amendment rights. Oh, hell no, separate question. I frankly don't put it in a much different category, maybe somewhat more severe, but in terms of danger to society, danger to themselves, danger to others. Would I say simply because they've decided, yes, they were born male, but they want to become, or they are, in fact, in their mind, a female, or vice versa, that they should be deprived of their Second Amendment rights? Oh, hell no. Now, that same person goes out on social media, and here now we're talking about some actual school shooters that we've seen. In Nashville, that person was actually transgender. Minneapolis, yes, transgender. Both of them had written things. We know the Minneapolis, well, we know both. We've seen a lot more of the manifesto, quote unquote, from the Minneapolis shooter than we'd ever did Nashville. For whatever reason, the officials down there in Tennessee are keeping that very close to the vest. But if there's some indication that whether it's based on that particular psychological or mental condition that causes them confusion about what gender they are, or based on whatever else is affecting them psychologically and mentally, that they are in fact now a threat to others. Okay. You have a psychological or mental condition, including a mental illness, that's causing you to be a danger to others. And there's an official determination of that. Adjudicated typically means, and that's the wording in the federal statute, that typically means a judge, based on facts, based on evidentiary standards, based on some legal criteria, has determined that you, in fact, meet the definition we're talking about. Somebody goes through that process, and there's a credible threat determined. That now is consistent with the Rahimi decision. Do I think everybody who falls within that broad category of transgender is, by definition, because they're transgender, a threat to themselves or others? A credible threat to themselves or others, based simply on, I was born a man, but now I really think I'm a woman. No, hell no. Absolutely not. Now, somebody goes, oh, well, Guy's on the pro transgender agenda here. He's a huge advocate for transgenderism, if that's the word. Well, look, make no mistake. Do I think transgenders should be allowed to serve in our military? No, I think it's disruptive to the purpose of our military, which is to be a fighting force, to go kill the enemy and win wars. I think when we went all woke in the military, whether it was starting with Clinton and proceeding through Obama and certainly continued under Biden, it was inconsistent with the mission of our U.S. military. Do I think biological males should compete with females in sports? Absolutely not. Hell no. And I've loved the legislation that we've seen in Indiana and at the federal level that prohibits that. 100%. No doubt about it. If you're a biological male, should you be using the same restroom with my wife or my daughter or my granddaughters? Hell no. Absolutely not. Let me be 100% clear on all of that. Do I think just because you've decided you're a different gender than God made you when you were born, that you should be deprived of your constitutional rights under the Second Amendment? Let me be very clear on this point. Oh, hell no. It doesn't meet any legal definition, and I don't think it's constitutional. Now I litigate these issues for a living, including the constitutionality of statutes. Somebody comes to me, let's say the Trump administration. This is how weird the world can become sometimes. You know, they say, what love and war make for strange bedfellows? Well, so can litigation and constitutional arguments. And you know what? If this thing were to go into effect, and I don't think it will, I think the Trump administration will wise up. I think they'll listen to groups like Gun Owners of America and the Firearms Policy Coalition and NRA and many others. And many have come out already and publicly weighed in on this. I think they'll see the wisdom of turning their back on this, I won't say proposed rulemaking, because they're just saying they're examining it or they're considering it. I think they'll wise up. But hypothetically, if the Trump administration went down this road and adopted this rule and across the board said, nope, you're transgender, you denied the gender that God made you biologically when you were born, then you have a mental illness and you're mentally defective and you can no longer possess a firearm under penalties of 10 years in prison. You know what? I'll tell you right now, I would take that case. And I have every confidence I would win that case. I think I'd win it in the trial court. I think I'd win it here in the Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals. It's our federal court. And I certainly think I'd win it at the Supreme Court. And I'm hopeful. I mean, hey, I like having big cases and I like litigating important issues. I'm hopeful the Trump administration sees the folly in going down this road, no pun intended, and doesn't take us there at all. But if they did, I would oppose it, I would litigate it, and I think I'd win on that issue. And right now I'm way past the bottom of the hour, so we're taking a break. This is Guy Relford on The Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC.
It's hot out there. The weather's hot.
And when we say hot,
But the headlines, they're even hotter.
I mean extremely hot.
The news of the day is heating up.
IMPD officers shot at least 3 times. One suspect was also shot.
Diego Morales, Secretary of State, in his bizarro international travel.
Playing out right in front of us every single day.
Stay cool.
Finally, a cool down is coming.
Stay informed.
All the information right here.
Stay with 93 WIBC.
Don't let pneumococcal pneumonia break your stride. If you're 50 or older, you're at increased risk. So be proactive with Capvaxive pneumococcal 21-valent conjugate vaccine to help protect against invasive pneumococcal disease and pneumonia caused by certain types of pneumococcal bacteria. Capvaxive helps protect against the strains of bacteria that cause about 30% more IPD cases than any other pneumococcal conjugate vaccine in adults over 50, according to national-level CDC stats. Regional variations may exist. Don't get Capvaxive if you're allergic to the vaccine or its ingredients. Tell your doctor if you have a weakened immune system. Common side effects include injection site reactions, feeling tired, headache, muscle aches, and fever. Capvaxive does not protect against all strains. For more information, call 1-800-927-8888 or visit capvaxive.com. Ask your doctor or pharmacist about Capvaxive. Need help paying for your Merck vaccine? Visit merckhelps.com. Sponsored by Merck.
The Labor Day sale is going on now at Thompson Furniture and Mattress in Columbus. Hey, this is Spencer Thompson, and now through September the 8th, save 50% off all Lazy Boy and Flex Steel, plus the lowest price of the year on all Indiana-made Smith Brothers of Bern. Save up to $800 on Tempur-Pedic, Stearns & Foster, Sealy, and Nectar mattresses. Hurry in to Thompson Furniture and Mattress in Columbus for our Labor Day sale. Offer ends Monday, September the 8th.
Grown-ups, don't go back to school. Go forward through school into your future as an IT professional. Whether you're starting out, switching careers, or a veteran ready for change, My Computer Career can help you get into IT in just a few short months with no prior experience. So take the free career evaluation now at mycomputercareer.edu. Your rewarding career in IT awaits. That's mycomputercareer.edu. An Elite CompTIA certification partner. Financial aid is available to those who qualify, including the VA benefits.
This hour on 93 WIBC is powered by Kirby Heating and Air, your American Standard air dealer, serving Hendricks and surrounding counties.
Fox News, I'm Daria Albinger. Protesters rally ahead of the White House immigration actions expected for Chicago.
In the village of Broadview, just west of Chicago, a nondescript ICE building will be used for detentions of illegal immigrants. Its windows boarded up, secure fencing blocking the outside view, where protesters Friday staged a sit-in and tried to keep immigration officials from entering or leaving.
Fox's Jeff Manasso. The Justice Department suing Boston over its sanctuary city status. Attorney General Pam Bondi on Fox's Hannity comparing D.C. to Boston.
In D.C., Muriel Bowser was cooperating with us, sharing intelligence. That's how we got so many violent offenders off the streets of D.C. Here, when they're not cooperating, it jeopardizes the lives of our men and women in law enforcement.
Boston's mayor vowing to fight the suit. America's listening to Fox News.
Welcome to Tire Discounters. Oh, hiya, Phantom.
Mike, I think I saw a fox on my way in.
Oh, that was the Carfax Carfox. He was congratulating us on our Carfax Top-Rated Service Center Award.
I have always rated Tire Discounters at the very top.
Oh, thanks. So does Carfax, and not just for tires, but for all our services, too.
Alignment, brakes, shocks, and struts, and more.
Yes, sir.
But, Mike, do you think people believe Carfax over me?
Well, you are the Phantom tire buyer.
Exactly.
Pat Sullivan here. It's that time of year in Indiana when you don't know if you need your AC unit blasting or your furnace to start kicking. Better have both prepared with a $49 AC unit and furnace tune-up from Hope Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling. Is it sweater weather or tank top weather? Nobody knows. But we do know that you can ensure total comfort inside your home for only $49. Call Hope Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling today at 641-HOPE. That's 641-HOPE.
Daisy was abandoned by her family and placed in foster care at 15 years old. Her life was full of uncertainty. She thought she'd never have a permanent place to call home.
Before I was adopted, I felt like I wasn't enough. I had this hole in my heart, and I never knew what I needed to patch that hole. But when my mom asked to adopt me, that hole was closed. It feels so normal now to say that I'm a part of this family. I am surrounded by love. I feel safe. And that hole inside of me is gone. I am whole. I'm finally enough just as I am.
The Dave Thomas Foundation for Adoption is changing the lives of teenagers at risk of aging out of foster care. Like Daisy, every child deserves a permanent, loving home. You can help. Learn more at davethomasfoundation.org.
The show about gun rights, gun safety, and responsible gun ownership. This is The Gun Guy with Guy Relford on 93 WIBC.
And welcome back. I'm Guy Relford on The Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC. And I'll tell you what, before we move on, let's go to the phone lines. Mike has called in. And Mike, welcome to The Gun Guy Show. Thanks for calling.
Thank you very much. Nice to speak with you.
Absolutely. What you got for us?
Well, I've been hearing Trump talking about the transgender ban for weapons, and I just don't think that's going to fly. And I was thinking more on the lines of, people that have to take antidepressants, Zoloft, and those lines of medications, because all of them talk about suicidal tendencies and violent reactions, and with that being more of a way to maybe cure some of this violence and shootings, much like the marijuana laws. If you have medical ID or a medical medical marijuana card, that you can't have a gun license because you're admitting.
Yeah, you can't buy a gun, you can't possess a gun, even in a state where it's been legal. And even if you have a medical marijuana card or your state allows the purchase of recreational marijuana, to your point, because it's still illegal at the federal level. And listen, Mike, you raise an interesting point, which is we start talking about these psychotropic drugs, and that's a term I hear a lot. And to be honest with you, not being a pharmacologist, pharmacist, whatever term you want to use, I don't know exactly how broad that category is. And listen, a lot of people are on mild antidepressants that are just fine, that get along great, that function wonderfully in society. I mean, Prozac, I think probably developed right here by our own beloved Eli Lilly in Indy, and has made that company an awful lot of money over an awful lot of years. But are you a danger to society simply because a doctor has seen fit to prescribe Prozac to you, I'm 100% sure that you're not. By definition, just because you've been prescribed and take that medication, because millions and millions and millions of people have taken an awful lot of Prozac for an awful long time and are never remotely violent, and in fact get along in society a lot better. Now, you do hear about a lot of these shooters, and a lot of these are being adolescents who turn into school shooters or other mass shooters, and they're on. And you mentioned Zoloft, and listen, I don't know enough about that particular drug to comment with any form of intelligence and insight. But you do hear about an awful lot of the Denver shooter, who shot up the theater during a viewing of A Dark Knight, the Batman movie, and killed so many people in that theater. You talked about, and that guy was just a zombie. When they showed him, in the courtroom where they showed him after being arrested, he just wasn't there. He was on another planet. And whether that's purely mental illness or because of the medications he was on or some combination thereof, I do not know. And a lot of these drugs, in fact, I saw a great Tucker Carlson on this, a fabulous one. My wife directed me to this, and we sat and watched the whole thing, and I commend it to your viewing. There was just a great Tucker Carlson where they talked about known side effects of some of these psychotropic drugs, including violence. And is there something there? I would never just reject that and say no. So I think Mike is on to something potentially smart. And it's not because someone's just transgender, which is not what Mike was suggesting at all. It's if you're on particular drugs, should you at least be under some additional scrutiny or go through some additional testing to determine if those drugs are really appropriate for you? Not purely as a condition of possessing a gun. I don't want to put those kind of restrictions on a Second Amendment right. But to the extent there's some determination that you are, in fact, now a credible threat, okay, now you're getting close to where some restriction on constitutional freedoms may be legal and constitutional based on the Rahimi decision from the Supreme Court. But this broad categorization that we're talking about, at least that the Justice Department talked about, we're considering if you're transgender, you can't possess a gun and we'll put you in prison if you do. Hell no. And again, I'm not suggesting Mike was saying anything different than what I am. And some of these drugs, are they overprescribed? Yes. Do they cause effects that could make people violent? Yes. Have some of our worst mass shooters been on those precise drugs? Yes. Is there something we should be looking at there? Oh, hell yes. But that's not just because someone decides, a lot of times based on peer pressure, based on not being accepted, living the lifestyle that they're currently living, and they see people celebrated on magazine covers and winning awards and showing up on talk shows, and everybody's patting them on the back because they're so brave because they've decided that they're, in fact, the opposite sex. And all these people support them and prop them up and then celebrate them. And can some kids look at that and say, oh, gosh, I want a part of that. I want to go from being shunned and ignored by my classmates or my peers and to suddenly being hoisted up and praised and acknowledged and called brave and a pioneer and all those things we see associated with transgenderism. I can see kids wanting to do that for purely the kinds of reasons that drive adolescent behavior to begin with. No, do I want to suddenly label that person? Oh, there you go. You got a mental illness that deprives you of your constitutional freedoms? Oh, hell, no, absolutely not. And that's what we're talking about. Let's wrap up that discussion. We're going to have a very short segment when we come back. We'll get into hour number 2, shift gears. Is Indiana really to blame for Chicago crime? With President Trump talking about sending the National Guard into Chicago like he has done in D.C. to stem crime. A lot of people are saying, well, we don't need the National Guard. We just need Indiana to stiffen up its gun laws. Hey, and then that would just do away with crime in Chicago. The gangs won't shoot each other anymore. If just all that evil Indiana would fix its gun laws. Any credence to that? Do the numbers support that? That's what we'll get into when we come back. Certainly into hour number 2. This is Guy Relford on The Gun Guy Show. Give us a call. Join the discussion. 317-239-9393. 317-239-9393. This is Guy Relford on The Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC.
It's another week of this.
There's a very good chance that we'll have a settlement.
And another day for this.
Water rose 28 foot in 45 minutes.
Plus, another possibility of this.
Monitor the weather condition, the National Weather Service.
That's why another update is just minutes away.
Start saying we're not taking this anymore.
Just another day.
Not with all this happening.
Every day.
Happening now.
93 WIBC and WIBC.com.
Guy Relford for the Law Office of Guy Relford. You know, one thing we do that we really enjoy doing, and we do a lot, is restore people's gun rights after they've lost them. Whether that's because of a felony conviction, even a misdemeanor for a crime of domestic violence. There are certain legal requirements. If you meet those requirements, if you're eligible, a lot of times we can restore people's gun rights after, not for all, certainly, but for a lot of convictions or things you may have on your record. You can actually restore your gun rights. It's something we do a lot of. And if you wanted to explore that for you, a family member, family friend, just contact us through the website. Go to relfordlaw.com, relfordlaw.com. You can send us an email or give us a call. That's relfordlaw.com.
To protect his family from disaster, Steve used his camera phone.
Done.
By taking pictures of his important documents, Steve can always have them stored online. Learn more simple disaster prep tips at ready.gov. A message from FEMA and the Ad Council.
Zillow ranks Indianapolis number 2 among 2025's hottest markets. Home values have risen and are holding strong. Now is a great time to sell. Hire the team with proven systems to maximize your equity. Sell your home with Mark Dietel. Perhaps you're worried you need costly repairs or upgrades to sell your home. Mark Dietel guarantees your home sold at a mutually agreed upon price and deadline, or he will buy it. Listen to what Luke and Emma in Franklin had to say about working with Mark Dietel. We began building our new dream home, and we needed to sell our old place at a great price to pay for it. The Mark Dietel team made it easy with multiple offers in the first weekend and closed in 25 days at the price we wanted. Call the local Indianapolis agent I trust and recommend, and the agent who guarantees your home sold, or he'll buy it. Call Mark Dietel at 317-755-4232 for all the details, or go online to markdietel.com. That's Mark, Dietel.com. Tell him Rob sent you.
The deals and specials are sizzling hot. It's the Central Indiana Gun and Knife Show next Saturday and Sunday at the Hendricks County Fairgrounds in Danville. The best dealers in the region. Hundreds of tables. Just $6 for adults. Kids 12 and under get in free. Must be 18 or accompanied by an adult. Buy, sell, trade. Next Saturday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. and Sunday, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the Hendricks County Fairgrounds in Danville. For more info, visit CentralIndianaGunshows.com.
It's JMV. Fall is approaching, and Miss M's Home and Garden is ready to help you. Visit the Garden Center for all things fall as the Labor Day sale continues. Now at Miss M's, save 20% on all trees, shrubs, and patio furniture, plus 30% on all pottery. These are the deals you do not want to miss. Get ahead on the fall planning, add some color with the high-quality pottery, or get a few pieces of poly patio furniture just in time for cooler fall nights. Miss M's on State Road 135, south of Whiteland Road in Bargersville.
My name is Jamie Bowles, and I was diagnosed with non-small cell lung cancer in December of 2018. Nobody would even know looking at me that I have stage 4 lung cancer, and I'm grateful for biomarker testing for that. When I was sitting down with my oncologist, there was already state-of-the-art medication available that I was going to be put on right then and there. Ask your doctor how comprehensive biomarker testing before treatment may help you decide on the best treatment. Visit NoOneMissed.org to learn more.
A public service message from Longevity Foundation.
Don't wait to hear it from someone else.
I says, oh yeah? And she says, yeah, it's right.
The WIBC Daily Newsletter brings you the headlines, videos, and moments everyone will be talking about next. Your rights, your responsibilities, your guns. This is The Gun Guy with Guy Relford on 93 WIBC.
And welcome back. As I indicated, we've got a very short segment. We only got about a minute. But Willinda, I think, has called in and has a comment. Willinda, welcome to the Gun Guy Show.
Hello. I am transgender. All this talk about banning guns is just making me a little nervous for us people like that who are really transgender. I'm not just, I'm living my life as a woman. And I fought as long as I could not to do this, but I was about to kill myself before I did this, and now I'm doing much better. But
Well, you say you're doing much better. Do you think if you had access to a gun, you'd be more likely to commit suicide based on what you've gone through?
No. I'm seeing a psychiatrist and psychologist and doing what I need to do to take care of myself.
All right. Do you think there's something about being transgender that naturally makes you more of a risk to hurt yourself or somebody else?
No. But if those people that are who are out there shooting people up aren't actually on hormones and trying to live their life as the
all right.
other
Well, listen,
gender.
and Melinda, I hate to cut you off, and thanks so much for calling, and good luck to you. But right now we're top of the hour. Got to take a break. This is Guy Relford on the Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC.
It's Terry Stacy, and not too many locally owned businesses in central Indiana have been around 80 years. But Cardwell Do It Best on the south side has stood the test of time. Congratulations to Jeff Cardwell and Cardwell Do It Best, recently named 2025 Member of the Year by Do It Best. Autumn brings about whole new to-do lists, and Cardwell Do It Best has everything you need and even stuff you didn't know you needed, like extra keys. They make keys, including programmable keys and key fobs. Cardwell is your discount roofing headquarters, featuring dimensional roofing as low as $21 per bundle. And for the yard, find a full line of trusted lawn and garden products and Milwaukee M18 fuel cordless power tools. Come celebrate 80 years strong at Cardwell Do It Best. Locally owned, community trusted, and always ready to help you do it best. 3205 Madison Avenue. Shop online where you'll find over 67,000 products with free shipping at CardwellHomeCenter.com.
Welcome to Tire Discounters. Oh, hiya, Phantom.
Mike, I think I saw a fox on my way in.
Oh, that was the Carfax Carfox. He was congratulating us on our Carfax Top-Rated Service Center Award.
I have always rated Tire Discounters at the very top.
Oh, thanks. So does Carfax. And not just for tires, but for all our services, too.
Alignment, brakes, shocks, and struts, and more.
Yes, sir.
But, Mike, do you think people believe Carfax over me?
Well, you are the Phantom tire buyer.
Exactly.
Guy Relford here. Time again for the Indy 1500 Gun and Knife Show this coming weekend at the State Fairgrounds, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. There's never been a more important time to exercise our rights as true Americans. It's the Indy 1500 Gun and Knife Show. See the best in sporting, hunting, and personal protection gear, plus great displays of Americana. Come see us this weekend at the Indy 1500 Gun and Knife Show, Friday 2 to 7, Saturday 9 to 6, and Sunday 9 to 4. It's the Indy 1500 Gun and Knife Show. See you there.
Shop incredible end-of-summer savings at the Scandinavian Designs Labor Day sale. For a limited time, take up to 70% off select modern furniture and decor for every room in your home, including living room, bedroom, dining room, and more. This is the perfect opportunity to get your space prepped for the party season ahead. Stop by your local showroom today or shop online at ScandinavianDesigns.com. Scandinavian Designs. We make it simple, you make it home.
Children are placed in foster care through no fault of their own. Because of abuse or neglect, it's heartbreaking.
We were just left in a hotel.
Tay and his brothers were adopted with help from the Dave Thomas Foundation for Adoption. But more than 100,000 children in the U.S. are still waiting for a family.
Now that I'm adopted, I can focus on being a kid.
Learn how you can help at davethomasfoundation.org.
Broadcasting from the Technology Recycler Studios, this is Indy's Mobile News, 93 WIBC. WIBC HD1 Indianapolis. The news starts now.
Fox News, the Trump administration's immigration and crime crackdown could arrive in the Windy City as soon as this weekend as Mexican heritage events are underway. Fox's Mike Tobin says officials are preparing.
The Mexican Independence Day celebration and parade is underway here in Chicago's predominantly Hispanic Pilsen neighborhood. Volunteers have been printing pamphlets telling people what to do if they encounter federal agents. They've handed out whistles as well so they can sound the alarm if anyone spots a federal agent or if arrests are taking place. But the organizer of this parade anticipates a peaceful event. The talking points from Democrats out here is that the president is trying to trigger riots with these enhanced immigration enforcement and therefore justify the need for the deployment of the National Guard to the city of Chicago.
Chicago is one of many Democratic-led cities. where the president is looking to crack down on illegal immigration. Hundreds of people were detained by ICE agents as they raided a Hyundai factory in Georgia, where the car makers partnered with an American company to make EV batteries. Fox's Madison Scarpino's in Savannah.
Officials say it was a result of a months-long investigation into illegal workers, but Hyundai says that none of the hundreds arrested directly worked for the motor company, but the majority of those detained were from South Korea. And South Korea's foreign ministry is not happy.
미국의 법 집행 과정에서
The economic activities of our companies investing in the United States and the interest of our citizens must not be unduly violated during the course of U.S. law enforcement.
A White House spokesperson saying in part, quote, any foreign workers brought in for specific projects must enter the United States legally and with proper work authorizations.
ICE says the investigation's ongoing. America's listening to Fox News.
From the Fox News Podcasts Network.
I'm Janice Dean, Fox News senior meteorologist and host of the Janice Dean podcast. Join me every Sunday as I focus on stories of hope and people who are truly rays of sunshine in their community and across the world. Be sure to subscribe to the Janice Dean podcast at foxnewspodcast.com or wherever you listen to your podcasts. And don't forget to spread the sunshine.
America's listening to Fox News. From the Fox News Podcasts Network.
This is Jason Chaffetz from the Jason in the House podcast. Join me every Monday to dive deeper into the latest political headlines and chat with remarkable guests to hear their take on American life, politics, and entertainment. And don't forget, there's always somebody doing something stupid somewhere.
Listen and follow now at foxnewspodcast.com
or wherever you download podcasts.
Must listen to podcasts from Fox News Audio.
Britain's deputy prime minister has resigned, Angela Rayner admitting.
93 WIBC Mobile News. On the level, on the go.
Wanting to feel safer. I'm Jarrett Lewis. Here's what's trending this hour. About 200 students from Indianapolis schools gathering at the State House Friday for a walkout event organized by Students Demand Action. Some calling for a ban on assault weapons in response to recent school shootings like the one in Minneapolis just last month.
It's incredible to see the hundreds and hundreds of students who have made their way to the State House to ensure that their voices are heard.
Democratic State Senator Andrea Hunley also in attendance. City leaders say Indianapolis is seeing fewer violent crimes this year. Ryan Hedrick reports.
Indianapolis police say violent crime is trending down, which lines up with what Mayor Hogsett is saying about the city's progressive approach.
Over 3 years, we have reduced criminal homicides by over 50%. And while we still have a ways to go, the numbers are trending in the right direction.
Fraternal Order of Police President Rick Snyder isn't buying the optimism. He says a double shooting early Saturday along South Meridian Street is proof that the city still has serious crime problems. Ryan Hedrick, 93 WIBC Mobile News.
The Indiana National Guard is deploying about 50 guardsmen to provide assistance to ICE in the state by the middle of this month. The deployment is part of a nationwide effort supporting ICE operations. And it's getting closer to game time and the start of the new NFL season for the Indianapolis Colts. They take on the Miami Dolphins at Lucas Oil Stadium. Kickoff is at 1 o'clock Eastern Time. Late owner Jim Irsay will also be honored at halftime. I'm Jarrett Lewis on the level, on the go, and on WIBC.com. Now the forecast from the American Standard Cooling Weather Center.
Mostly sunny, high temperatures cooler than average in the lower 70s. We'll continue a dry streak through much of next week with no rain chances. Temperatures eventually get back into the 80s midweek. On Wish TV, Storm Track 8 meteorologist Ryan Morse for 93 WIBC.
Every child deserves the best teachers, facilities, and academic programs to set them up for success both now and in the future. At Milton Hershey School in Hershey, Pennsylvania, we make that a reality for children from qualifying families who are looking for greater opportunities. Milton Hershey School enrolls students from pre-K through 12th grade from across the United States to live and learn on a beautiful state-of-the-art campus with all costs covered. Students who are accepted to Milton Hershey School have access to a top-tier education, along with health care, meals, housing, and fully funded career pathways to pursue whatever they're passionate about, from performing arts to internships to coding. Students can even accrue up to $95,000 to continue their education after high school, thanks to the generosity of Chocolatier Milton Hershey and his wife, Catherine. Are you looking to set your child up for success or know a child who could benefit from Milton Hershey School? Learn more at mhskids.org/admissions.
If you can plan barbecues and weddings, you can plan to protect yourself from a natural disaster. Sign up for local alerts, prepare an emergency kit, and make a family communications plan. Get started at ready.gov/plan.
Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. This is the Second Amendment. And this is the Gun Guy.
Boom, 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 boom. Bang, 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 bang. Boom, 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 boom. Bang, bang, bang.
With Guy Relford on 93 WIBC.
And welcome back for hour number 2 of the Gun Guy Show here on 93 WIBC. Shout out to the good folks on the YouTube feed, especially those who are in the chat feature. Love the commentary there. Love most of the commentary there, but it's always great to see people participate there. There's not a lot of entertainment value, I have to admit, in watching the show on video. Just some old guy sitting in front of a microphone. But the chat feature, I think, is something that people enjoy, and there's some interaction there. Sometimes people pose questions. It's hard to keep up with during live radio. But there's a lot of knowledgeable people on there, and a lot of people that post some good information, and I always appreciate the following there on YouTube. Before I get into some other topics, I had some memories come up on Facebook, and then I don't know, I have some come up on my email. I'm not quite sure how that happens. It's through OneDrive, I think, like a cloud service where I have stuff stored out on the cloud. But I got a number of pictures that came up as memories for September 6th in years past, fairly recently. And from 2021, pictures came up from, I think this was one of the first times that we did a night with WIBC. And listen, if you haven't heard of that, it's where we've done 3, I think. But we'll book a theater in downtown Indy. We've done it a couple different places, a couple beautiful theaters. One is part of the Historical Society over there. I don't remember the actual theater name that's in there. But each of the WIBC hosts, certainly the main host during the week, Tony Katz and Hammer and Nigel, and then those other people that are on mid-morning. The name always escapes me. But I'm kidding. Kendall and Casey, they each of them come out and do a version of their show, but do it in front of a live audience. And there's a cocktail hour or two beforehand, a little bit of time afterwards. So a lot of mingling, and we get to meet listeners, and there's some hors d'oeuvres and cocktails, and then we do sort of a live version of each of the shows, and some other the personalities like Matt Baer. Matt Baer is always a favorite when he comes out. You know, our awesome traffic guy during the week, and just an all-around tremendous human being who has a wonderful podcast, by the way, Supporting Sobriety. You need to go out and find that. It's about those people that care about people that are going through recovery from different forms of addiction, whether that's from alcohol or drugs or otherwise. And the people who care about those recovering addicts need support too. That's the whole premise behind that podcast. And he and Ryan Hedrick, also here from WIBC, do that. But anyway, Matt Baer is just a wonderful human being all the way around, and he always gets a huge applause. So anyway, I don't know about a night with WIBC that's been scheduled. If I hear about one, I will throw it out there because it's just so much fun. It's fun for me. I've had my show now for 10 years. It doesn't seem like it. I still kind of feel like a rookie around here since I just do the weekend show and occasionally fill in on Hammer and Nigel, and then, of course, do Monday Gun Day on Hammer and Nigel. But at any rate, it's a lot of fun to meet listeners and have an evening where we can have some cocktails and interact a little bit. And then the other memory that came up, also from September 6th, from 2022, was I was just wrapping up a defensive carbine course out at Gunsight out in Paulden, Arizona. And listen, my former sheriff, I live in Boone County. I live in Zionsville. So that's in Boone County, obviously. And my sheriff for several years was Ken Campbell. And Ken Campbell, just a wonderful, wonderful county sheriff, but was also at the time a guest instructor and has been a wonderful firearms instructor for decades. But he became a guest instructor out at Gunsight, which is primarily based out in Paulden. They teach other places. And after leaving law enforcement, he ended up being out there first. He was the chief operating officer, now the chief executive officer at Gunsight in Paulden, Arizona. And I'll tell you what, there is just no better place to go train. I've been in a lot of places around the country and taken a lot of courses around the country. And Gunsight is it, man. It's definitely the top of the list. I think it's the finest civilian firearms training facility on earth. And listen, that's not because they pay me to promote them or anything like that. I just love to go out there and train. But I had a great group picture that came up in my memories. And I got to tell you, that course completely whipped my ass. That course was rough. It was a carbine course. So I'm taking it with an AR. Most people are taking it with ARs. I think there was maybe an AK or two. And we had some bullpups out there as well. But primarily ARs. And I got to tell you, whenever you're doing a course like this, they always have the so-called alternative shooting positions, right? So you're going to shoot from prone, right? You're flat out on the ground. Then you're going to shoot from kneeling, squatting, sitting. And then there's a whole bunch of transitioning between the different positions. It's like, okay, you're going to prop down prone and fire so many shots and then come up to kneeling and then squatting and then, come up to standing and shoot a number of different targets. Or there was more or less an obstacle course we had to run where you had to crawl down into one where you had to crawl through almost like a dog cage kind of a thing and get out the other end of it and shoot from that position and crawl back out of the thing and squat down and shoot from behind a stump or a tree branch and a whole bunch of things. And it was fabulous training. It was absolutely fabulous training. I think I was the oldest one in this course by a good 15 or 20 years. It may have been somebody else in their 40s. I don't know that anybody else there was in their 60s, as I was at the time. And but I got to tell you, so I ran everything. I did every drill. And I would tell them, I go, this may not be real fast. It may not be real pretty, but I'm going to get it done. And the beginning of the week, I was keeping up pretty well on the whole physical thing. My big problem was knees. I played football for, 14 years and had a couple of knee surgeries, and my knees have not done well over the years. And I won't bemoan that anymore, but if my knees would have cooperated, I'd have a hell of a lot better time. But I still had just a fabulous training experience out there, as I always do. And it was funny as I was leaving, and it was funny because I was wearing shorts, and Ken Campbell, the CEO, came up, and we've been friends for a long time, since before he went out permanently to Arizona. And he came up, and I was kind of rubbing one knee, and he looked at me, he goes, dude, I think your knees are bigger around than your thighs are right now, because my knees were all swollen. And I thought, that doesn't say good things about my knees or my thighs. My knees were swollen up like balloons, but none of that detracts from the fabulous experience out there, and I don't mean it that way. And Ken reminded me that out at Gunsight, they have now what they call their seasoned, not senior, but seasoned citizen courses. And it's the same course. They don't do the same testing at the end. You don't necessarily get the same designations like expert and that kind of thing you can get out of running their regular courses where you're doing every drill the way it's designed to be taught out there. But it's without the ups and downs. It's without the getting on the ground, getting up from the ground about 10 million times, which we did in my carbine course. At least it felt that way. So now they have these seasoned citizen courses out there they've had for a few years where it's all the same training but without the ups and downs. And I thought, man, that's a concession I don't necessarily want to make. I mean, yeah, hell yeah. I'm getting ready here in November. I'm turning 68 years old. About 2 years from 70. Yikes. There's no way that's not seasoned, whatever definition you want to apply to that. But damn, I've been in denial on the age thing for a long time. And I hate to admit, I still can't go out there and do everything the younger people can do. So I think I'm going to take at least one more of the rifle classes out there where I'm doing every damn thing. And as soon as if I ever have to bow out of a drill or I just can't physically do it, then all right, I may move on and admit the handicap that is old age. But in the meantime, I didn't really even intend to go into this. And in the meantime, I found myself making fun of myself a little bit. But what a great memory. And listen, there's no compensation coming back toward me for this. I just love training out there, and the picture brought back a lot of great memories. A lot of really good people in my course, and really great instructors. Our lead instructor, our range masters, they call them out there for this carbine class, a gentleman named Walt. And for the life of me, I can't remember Walt's last name right now. As I said, I didn't really intend to go down this road on the show, but Walt was like a 6-time long-distance rifle champion, world champion in terms of precision shooting. And he also teaches their precision shooting courses out there as well, and is range master for those. And my goodness, a 6-time world champion. This guy is a marksman like nobody's business. And oh, by the way, I think Walt is at least my age. Yeah, he's one way or the other. He may be older than me, he may be a little younger, but I bet we're within 3 or 4 years of each other. And Walt was doing every damn thing. He was popping on the ground, popping right back up like a damn gymnast. So age is not necessarily an excuse for me, but it just great experience. So forgive the departure there. I'm reminiscing. I'm looking at the picture I posted on Facebook, just thinking about what a great experience it was. So if you get an opportunity, please do that. Right now, we're taking a break at the quarter hour. We'll come back. I'll talk about the allegation that, I've heard this all this week and a half. National Guard troops going to Chicago. Oh, heck no. We just need to change Indiana's gun laws, and that'll fix the crime problem in Chicago. Any credibility behind that? That's what we'll get into when we come back. This is Guy Relford on The Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC.
Kendall and Casey.
The ultimate job of why we send people to Congress is not to be a teammate or an opposition to the president. It's to be a check and balance. If there's areas you agree, great, you vote together. If there's areas you don't agree, you push back. And all we see now in terms of our Congress is just, hey, if it's Democrat, it's blanket opposition. And if you're Republican, it's blatant errand boy behavior.
Kendall and Casey, weekdays 9 till noon on 93 WIBC and WIBC.com.
Guy Relford for Tactical Firearms Training. Our next Essentials of Indiana Gun Law course is coming up on Saturday, September 20th. Exactly 2 weeks from today. We'd love to see you there. It's $50 for an individual, $95 for couples. And this is 5 hours of the most important legal information you need as an Indiana gun owner, including a detailed discussion of the lawful and justified use of force and self-defense, including deadly force. If you carry a gun, you own a gun. Certainly if you carry a gun every day, whether that's under constitutional carry or with your Indiana license to carry a handgun, this is exactly the information you need to know, and we love to provide it. We've been teaching this class for a long, long time. We'd love to see you there. It's going to be at Indy Arms on the northeast side of Indy at 2550 East 55th Street, just a block off of Keystone. Again, $50 for an individual, $95 for couples. You can sign up right online at tactical-firearms.com. That's tactical-firearms.com. Just click on upcoming courses at tactical-firearms.com.
The deals and specials are sizzling hot. It's the Central Indiana Gun and Knife Show next Saturday and Sunday at the Hendricks County Fairgrounds in Danville. The best dealers in the region. Hundreds of tables. Just $6 for adults. Kids 12 and under get in free. Must be 18 or accompanied by an adult. Buy, sell, trade. Next Saturday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. and Sunday, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the Hendricks County Fairgrounds in Danville. For more info, visit centralindianagunshows.com.
Oh no, stomach issues again?
Stomach issues? Who are you? Your pancreas. I could be the real reason for your diarrhea, gas, bloating, stomach pain, or loose oily stools.
I thought it was my stomach.
People often do, but any of these symptoms could mean having a condition called exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, or EPI. With EPI, the pancreas doesn't release enough enzymes to break down food, but EPI is manageable. Use the symptom checker on identifyepi.com and speak with your doctor. That's identifyepi.com. Sponsored by AbbVie.
Lanny
went to college and racked up huge debt.
A little bit over $100,000.
For a degree he couldn't use, now what?
I had a friend that went to My Computer Career.
They even helped him get hired immediately after graduation.
One of the things I love about IT is that you can work from anywhere you want.
You could become an IT pro in just months, including cybersecurity and the basics of AI with zero experience at mycomputercareer.edu. My Computer Career, an elite CompTIA certification partner.
It worked for me, and I know it can work for you.
This is one student's experience. Individual results vary.
Pros trust Milwaukee Power Tools, which is why Quality Supply and Tool is one of the largest Milwaukee dealers in the country. And right now at Quality Supply and Tool, buy a select M18 fuel grinder, bare tool, and get your choice of the Red Lithium XC8 battery kit, 3/8-inch mid-torque impact wrench, or 4.5 to 5-inch variable speed grinder free. That's a $279 value. Or buy a select M18 4 or 6-piece combo kit and choose 2 select M18 tools free. Only until November 2nd while supplies last. In Lafayette, Bloomington, Jeffersonville, and Indy, Quality Supply and Tool thinks outside the box. Store.
Hi, I'm Vanessa Williams, and I want to share with you the role that diabetes has had in my family. I lost my grandmother at the early age of 64 due to complications with diabetes. She was warm, generous, and a constant encouragement for me to follow my heart. Did you know that African Americans experience chronic kidney disease at a rate that's 25% higher than white Americans? And we're almost 4 times more likely to develop kidney failure. Diabetes and high blood pressure are leading causes of kidney disease, which can result in kidney failure, needing dialysis, or a kidney transplant. The good news is that you have the power to check out how well your kidneys are doing and learn ways to prevent them from failing. So go to your doctor and get yourself checked out. Visit linkbylovetv.org to learn more. Get the facts, get checked, and get healthy.
Are you prepared for an emergency or disaster? Because it's not a matter of if, but when. Don't find yourself saying,
when the storm rolls in, my time to find a pet-friendly evacuation center will have run out.
The scorching heat wave will leave me powerless to cool my insulin.
I'll face a hurricane without meds. Now that's a tough pill to swallow.
Let's prepare so we all have a better story to tell. Get started at ready.gov/older adults. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
This is Emily with Kirby Heating and Air Conditioning. We're always on call to take care of you. We won't leave you out in the cold.
Schedule now at KirbyHeating.com, your trusted local independent American Standard heating and air conditioning dealer.
Indy Humane. Find your new best friend today. Visit indyhumane.org.
Now you've got a gun guy. Guy Relford on 93 WIBC.
And welcome back. I'm Guy Relford on the Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC. So there's a common refrain. You've heard it for a lot of years. Obama came out. In fact, I screamed at the TV. I was seeing it was a town hall type of event where President Obama was speaking, and he started talking about crime and the need for gun control and all the same refrains we hear from liberal politicians over and over, but he made an entirely false claim. It was absolutely fictitious. You go out and find this on the internet, because I remember it clear as bell. It's out there. He made the claim that 40% of guns recovered from Chicago crime scenes came from Indiana. They were originally purchased in Indiana. And said, there you go, look at that. And if only Indiana didn't have such lax gun laws, that's the term you always hear, lax gun laws, then we'd have much less crime in Chicago. So it's not that gun control doesn't work, because you'll hear a lot of people on the conservative side of the equation or the pro-Second Amendment side of the equation, where I am, say, well, if gun control worked, why do these Democrat-controlled cities and Democrat-controlled states where they have the wish list. They have the cornucopia of gun control laws. California and Maryland, where Baltimore is. California, where L.A. is. Chicago and Illinois has passed every conceivable law. If there's a law that Moms Demand Action wants to see on the books, they have it in California. They have it in Illinois. Have it in Maryland. Have it in New York, New Jersey, Hawaii, Washington, Oregon, several others. where liberals, because of the large cities within those states, control the state legislatures. They've got the whole wish list. So why do you see such out-of-control crime? Look at the hellhole that Portland has become here lately. Because they've decided, well, I don't know, if you have purple hair, you're otherwise a liberal wacko, we just won't enforce any existing laws against you whatsoever. And, oh, by the way, law-abiding citizens are completely hamstrung in their ability to defend themselves. And so you look at all of this, but the point of President Obama in this town hall was, well, it's not the fact that gun control doesn't work. Gun control works great. It's just that there are these lax gun controls in adjoining states like Indiana, and people buy guns legally in Indiana, and then they bring them to Illinois and Chicago specifically, and they commit all these crimes. And so we just need to fix Indiana gun laws in order to prevent all this crime. And you're hearing that all the time right now, whether it's from national politicians like Chuck Schumer, etc., or people lashing out against President Trump for even talking about, considering sending the National Guard to Chicago like he's done in D.C. And by the way, on that point, just initially, there's a basic premise here we need to get our heads around, which is sending the National Guard in to do any form of law enforcement, quote unquote, into Chicago is a whole different deal than Washington, D.C. Why? Because Washington, D.C. is federal territory. And what President Trump has the authority to do, and what's not prohibited on federal territory and federal land, is completely different than what he's legally able to do in terms of law enforcement using federal law enforcement, in this case, military personnel. That's a whole different deal. We have posse comitatus, which is actually not part of the Constitution, but it's been a federal statute for a long, long time. It says military can't be used domestically. Certain exceptions, but to send them out and say, well, now you're going to be the cops in Chicago, and they're getting around that. They're saying, no, they're going to be there to protect federal personnel. They're going to be there to protect federal property like courthouses or ICE offices or ATF offices. They're not going to do domestic law enforcement. That's not what we're using them for, so we pass muster under what's currently prohibited. I get all that, but it's a whole different equation, what he can do in Chicago versus what he can do in D.C., what he can do in any other state or any other city like Baltimore, which he's talked about as well. But but the point I want to make in all of this is that Indiana starts being put under the spotlight, the microscope, in terms of criticizing our laws. And what are the actual numbers? It's interesting because Breitbart just published the results from an analysis of the most recently available numbers, which is 2023. And they looked at ATF gun recovery and trace data. So what are we talking about here? When a gun is recovered at a crime scene, whether it's by CPD, Chicago Police Department, whatever local law enforcement agency, they often call ATF for a trace. And listen, if you own a gun store, you work at a gun store, you get this call all the time, or you get a visit from ATF. Often it's just a phone call. They'll say, hey, we need a trace on this gun. And how does that all happen? How does that all unfold? Well, here's exactly how it happens. The gun's recovered at a crime scene. Police there have the gun, and they see it's a Glock, it's a Model 19, and it's got a serial number on it. Now, sometimes the serial number's been removed, and there are things that can foil this whole process. But typically, there's the make, there's the model, there's the serial number. So they call a manufacturer. They contact the manufacturer, and they say, I need a trace on this Glock 19 with serial number XYZ, 123. And Glock runs that, and they say, we sold it to such and such a distributor on such and such a date. So they call the distributor. And then they get a hold of the distributor, and they say, what'd you do with that gun? Well, I sold that to Guy's Gun Store in Carmel, Indiana. Okay. That's when the call to the gun store comes in. Okay, well, you need to run a trace on this. Gun stores are required to keep the 4473 forms. There's not supposed to be any national database. I say you're not supposed to be. A lot of us suspect the ATF's been secretly trying to build this, illegally, by the way, because part of the Gun Owners Protection Act of 1984 prohibits, or is it 86? The Firearms Owners Protection Act
prohibits the federal government from keeping any kind of a national database of firearms and serial numbers and gun owners outside the NFA, National Firearms Act. But for a typical rifles, pistols, and shotguns, the government's not supposed to keep any kind of database. But what is legal and what's actually legally required is the gun shops are supposed to keep those 4473 forms. And I've heard all kinds of numbers. First I heard 20 years, I heard 25 years, then I heard until they go out of business. And they're supposed to keep them in some kind of a chronological searchable format. And so the gun store says, okay, about when would we have received this gun in? And the ATF will know that based on what they heard from the distributor or the manufacturer, if the manufacturer sold it directly to a gun shop. So, well, you got it in about blank. Well, that doesn't tell them when they sold it, depending on how long it sat in inventory. But they'll go in, and this is no easy process. A lot of times, these 4473 forms are held just in paper form. And so it's literally rifling through a box of these forms looking for a make and model and serial number. Eventually they'll find it, and they'll say, aha, and they'll come back on the phone, or they'll call ATF back and say, we sold this gun to so-and-so. The name will be on the 4473 form with a date, and then it'll have their identifying information, their name, their address, etc. But that trace to the gun shop, if that gun shop's in Indiana, then they say, aha, this is based on information from the manufacturer, any distributors, anybody else in the chain of distribution before it ended up at that gun shop. So if that gun shop's in Indiana, boom, there's a gun recovered, in this case, given our discussion, from a Chicago crime scene that was originally sold in Indiana. Now, when might that have happened? The study of 2023 data that looked at 22,973, so just shy of 23,000 guns recovered or traced in Illinois in 2023. 22,000. They looked at those and they actually calculated what they call time to crime. So in other words, from that date, that gun was sold by the first FFL, the first federal firearms licensee, the first gun shop. And they determined that by, again, going back through the manufacturer, anybody else in the chain of distribution, until they got to the gun shop. In this case, it was 6 years, what they call time to crime, from the time it was received by the gun store or sold by the gun store. It's the latter. It's sold by the gun store until it was recovered at a crime. Now, some smart and knowledgeable people on the chat feature on YouTube are saying the average long term, given more than just 1 year of data, which was the subject of this particular study of 2023, says it's more like 12 years on average. It could be a long damn time. So all they're saying is this was a gun recovered at a Chicago crime scene that was originally sold in Indiana. It may have been sold in Indiana 20 years ago. The average for 2023 guns, it was 6 years ago. How many times has it changed hands in that 6 years, or 12 years, or 20 years on that particular gun? And is there something that tells you, based on that time frame, there was something wrong with the gun laws in the state in which it was originally sold that allowed to do something that was legal in that state, would have been prevented had they not had such quote-unquote lax gun laws? In my view, and I feel strongly about this, you can't blame violence on so-called lax gun laws if what was done was actually illegal under the laws of that state or illegal under federal law. And I'll make this point, and then I'll go into this break. We're always late going into breaks on my show. But for instance, is it legal to sell a handgun to a citizen of another state, a resident of another state? No. So somebody from Chicago with an Illinois driver's license drives to Indiana and buys a handgun. Somebody broke the law by selling them that gun. That's true whether a private purchaser or at a gun store. Is it legal to be engaged in the commerce of buying and selling firearms like a lot of these people are. They say, oh, well, they come to gun shows and they fill up a van and they drive back to Chicago and sell the guns, and that's all totally legal under Indiana law. And that's why it's the lax gun laws that allow all those guns to make it back to Chicago and wind up in the hands of gangs or other criminals. Well, is that really true? First of all, if you're doing that and you're taking them back to Chicago and selling them for a profit, which obviously they are, that's being illegally engaged in the commerce of buying and selling firearms, which is already illegal under federal law. So you're breaking a law. If that law were enforced, the gun would have never made its way back to Chicago. If somebody sold a gun, whether it's a private citizen or an FFL at a gun shop, sells a handgun to a resident of a different state, they broke the law under current law. So how is it lax gun law that resulted in that, as opposed to failure to enforce the laws we already have? And invariably, if somebody comes to Indiana, buys a gun, and takes it back to Chicago and resells it, and it ends up in the hands of criminals or gang members who then commit crimes, because, say, they're criminals, then there were a whole series of laws broken in that context. How can you blame lax gun laws when laws were broken and the person didn't care about breaking those laws? If there were one additional or two additional or 20 additional laws in place, what makes you think that person would suddenly comply with the law when what they did was already illegal? But how about the numbers? People say, well, we wouldn't have any crime, or wouldn't have significant crime in Chicago if Indiana didn't have these lax gun laws, because this mass quantity of guns come from Indiana. And keep in mind, when we say come from Indiana, all it means is they were originally sold by a gun store, an FFL in Indiana. Could have gone through changes of hands 20 different times. Could have ended up in Florida or Mississippi or wherever else and then brought to Chicago. So came from Indiana doesn't mean they came directly from Indiana into the hands of whoever committed that crime that caused the trace to occur in the first place. It just means it was originally sold. It went through untold number of hands beforehand, went to untold number of other states, and eventually wound up in Chicago. But are the numbers even accurate? That's what we'll go into when we come back. Right now we're taking a break. This is Guy Relford on The Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC.
Hammer and Nigel.
Weatherman upset that Trump cutting some funding to the National Weather Service.
The war on science.
Yeah, tell me more about that science that told me I had to wear a mask made in China that didn't protect me from anything. Tell me about the science of 6 feet apart. Tell me about the science of being in a restaurant. You can sit down and eat with no mask, but you got to stand up and wear a mask. But if you go to Cannes, you got to stand back up and put it on again.
Hammer and Nigel, weekdays 3 till 7 on 93 WIBC and WIBC.com.
It seems like all kids do during the summer is drag dirt into the house. Well, they can stink up the house too, but here's the good news. The kids are back in school, and fortunately there is Zero Res. Zero Res is the healthy way to get your home feeling fresh and clean again. Even if your house doesn't look dirty, you need to call Zero Res to remove the dust, dander, and bacteria in your carpets from a summer of fun. Zero Res will clean up the pizza spills and puppy piddles, and they get the yuck out of your air ducts as well. Lucky for you, you can score big this month with great savings. Hi, this is Denny Smith, and you can get 3 rooms Zero Resified starting at just $129 and take $75 off your air duct cleaning too. The patented ZR water uses no soap, leaves no residue, and there are no harsh chemicals either. They just aren't needed to get things really clean. Now mention WIBC and get 3 rooms cleaned by the Zero Res Pros starting at $129, plus $75 off duct cleaning too. 317-388-5141. Online at ZeroResIndy.com.
Guy Relford here. Time again for the Indy 1500 Gun and Knife Show this coming weekend at the State Fairgrounds, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. There's never been a more important time to exercise our rights as true Americans. It's the Indy 1500 Gun and Knife Show. See the best in sporting, hunting, and personal protection gear, plus great displays of Americana. Come see us this weekend at the Indy 1500 Gun and Knife Show, Friday 2 to 7, Saturday 9 to 6, and Sunday 9 to 4. It's the Indy 1500 Gun and Knife Show. See you there.
Fall is approaching and Sundown Gardens is ready to help you. Visit the Garden Center for all things fall as the Labor Day sale is continuing. Now at Sundown Gardens, save 20% on all trees and shrubs, 30% on all pottery. These are the deals you just don't want to miss, so get ahead on the fall planning, add some color with high-quality pottery, and ensure your property is beautiful for the fall season ahead. Sundown Gardens on the corner of 186th Street and Spring Mill Road in Westfield, sundown.gardens.com. That's sundown.gardens.com.
This hour on 93 WIBC is powered by Kirby Heating and Air, your American Standard air dealer, serving Hendricks and surrounding counties.
Fox News, I'm Roger Stern. So far, ICE has not cracked down on Chicago's Mexican Heritage celebration, but President Trump added fuel to the fire with a post that references Robert Duvall in the movie Apocalypse Now.
It reads, I love the smell of deportations in the morning. Chicago about to find out why it's called Department of War. Senator Tammy Duckworth blasted back, called the president a draft dodger.
Fox's Mike Tobin in Chicago. The South Korean government held an emergency meeting and condemned yesterday's ICE raid on a Hyundai plant in Georgia, rounding up 475 people. Carmaker says
Hyundai is now taking complete control of the mega site to make sure that all suppliers and contractors are following the law.
Fox's Madison Scarpino in Georgia. America's listening to Fox News.
We play fair in Indiana, but Washington insiders want to cheat. They want taxpayers to spend millions to redraw legislative maps approved just 4 years ago. That's not democracy. It's a power grab, and they're hoping you won't notice. Thankfully, some of our leaders are saying no to D.C. politics. Tell politicians Hoosiers don't cheat. Protect our votes and get back to focusing on our real problems. Join the team at playfairindiana.com. Paid for by Indiana Conservation Voters.
Attention, Indiana homeowners. Are you tired of avoiding your wet basement? Hi, I'm Mike Smith with Swanco Crawl Space and Basement Repair, your real, local, Indiana family-owned experts. Imagine all the possibilities of a guaranteed dry basement, a cozy new family room, a home gym, or even a new office. And with no interest, no payment financing, you don't have to break the bank to do it. Make the most of your basement today. Call Swanco 317-407-1868 or swancollc.com.
Join us every Friday right around 5:50 for Beer Sample Friday.
Brought to you by Thompson Furniture and Mattress in Columbus, home of free delivery within 75 miles of their store.
Latrell spent more than 8 years in foster care. His world changed when he was adopted at 15 with help from the Dave Thomas Foundation for Adoption.
I think about how much we love him, and I wish we could have had him for his entire childhood.
The foundation is changing the lives of thousands of teens waiting in foster care. You can help. Learn more at davethomasfoundation.org.
1 in 6 seniors faces the threat of hunger, and millions more live in isolation. Drop off a hot meal and say a quick hello. Volunteer for Meals on Wheels by donating your lunch break at americaletsdolunch.org. This message brought to you by Meals on Wheels America and the Ad Council.
Through their service, veterans have our backs. Now we should have theirs. Learn more at gotyoursix.org.
He's a Second Amendment attorney. He's an NRA certified firearms instructor. He's the gun guy. Guy Relford on 93 WIBC.
And welcome back. We're going to have a bit of a short segment here because I want to reserve some time at the end of the show to talk about something a little different. But talking about whether Indiana should really be blamed for Illinois' crime problem. And again, when President Obama at this town hall, and I don't remember, I could find it easily with a Google search, but it was sometime during his presidency. And I want to say it was when he was running for his second term. And he was president, from elected in 2008 until 2016. So his term would have actually been, January 2009 to January 2017. And I want to say when he was running for re-election. But he came out and he made this claim, and the number was completely off. He said 40% of Chicago, quote-unquote, crime guns, that is guns recovered from crime scenes, were from Indiana. And I remember researching it at the time, and the number was actually 18%, another ATF study, like we just saw looking at 2023 numbers. And the actual number was 18, so it was less than half of what he claimed. And I remember thinking at the time that 18% was incredibly low when you think about it, because until 2010, possessing a handgun in Chicago was completely illegal. You couldn't sell them, you couldn't own them, and you couldn't possess them. Why? Because Chicago had a complete ban on handguns. And that wasn't overturned by the Supreme Court of the United States until 2010 in the McDonald versus City of Chicago case. And that was on the heels of Heller versus D.C. It was actually D.C. versus Heller. It was in 2008. They said, yes, there's a constitutionally protected right to own a handgun. That was applied to D.C., a federal territory. And then in McDonald, they said, yes, the Second Amendment is, quote unquote, incorporated through the 14th Amendment to apply to the states. So Illinois and the city of Chicago have to comply with the Second Amendment too. And yes, there's a constitutionally protected right to own a handgun. So starting only in 2010, during Obama's presidency, could you even own a gun in Chicago or Illinois? And they still had incredibly draconian licensing requirements. They were drug kicking and screaming to even issue licenses. So if it's completely illegal for all that time to possess a handgun in Chicago, because Chicago banned them until the constitutional ruling came down, the Supreme Court ruling came down in 2010 requiring them to allow some ownership of handguns. So you couldn't buy a handgun until 2010, sometime thereafter. So was it surprising that 18% of quote-unquote crime guns originally came from Indiana? Well, you couldn't buy a gun in Illinois, a handgun. It was shocking to me, given the proximity of Hammond and Gary to Chicago, that only 18% came from Indiana. So what's it done since that time frame? Let's call it 2013 or 14. It was my best estimate of when Obama made that claim, and I ran it down. It was 18%. Well, again, let's go back to the study we just saw from ATF looking at 2023. You know what the percentage was that came from Indiana? 12%. You want to blame Indiana for Chicago's crime problems? Well, you got to account for the other 88%. And keep in mind that 12%, that was just, it doesn't mean they popped out of Indiana the day before a crime occurred, and Indiana directly supplied that gun to a crime scene or to a criminal who perpetrated a crime at the crime scene. It just means it was originally sold in Indiana, which could have been, on average, 6 years before, based on 2023 data, and based on historical data, was about twice that long. So can you draw these conclusions that Indiana is the source of the guns that contribute and in fact cause Illinois' crime problem? Of course not. The numbers don't support it. And guess where the largest single source in terms of states? What was the largest single source of guns recovered at Chicago crime scenes and traced in 2023? The largest single source state? 40%. Illinois gun shops sold 40%, almost 4x the number of Indiana. How are you blaming Indiana? So that's 52 total. Where'd the other 48 come from? A smattering of other states. Mississippi, Alabama, a whole number of other states. How are you blaming Indiana? And if Illinois has these wonderful crime preventing laws, gun control laws they have in Illinois work so fabulously, why is the number one contributor of quote-unquote crime guns at Chicago crime scenes Illinois? Explain that to me. It doesn't hold up. It doesn't hold up to logic. It doesn't hold up to facts. And it doesn't hold up to ATF's own statistics. With that, we're taking a break. We'll be back and wrap up this edition of The Gun Guy Show when we come back. This is Guy Relford on The Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC.
It's another week of this.
There's a very good chance that we'll have a settlement.
And another day for this.
Water rose 28 foot in 45 minutes.
Plus, another possibility of this.
Monitor the weather condition, the National Weather Service.
That's why another update is just minutes away.
Start saying we're not taking this anymore.
Just another day.
Not with all this happening.
Every day.
Happening now.
93 WIBC and WIBC.com.
Guy Relford for Tactical Firearms Training. You want to sign up for Essentials of Indiana Gun Law? Our next one's coming up 2 weeks from today on the 20th. Sign up at tactical-firearms.com. Click on upcoming courses at tactical-firearms.com.
You let him try violin because you love him. And if you love him that much, love him enough to make sure he's buckled up and in the back seat. Find out more at nhtsa.gov/the right seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Don't let pneumococcal pneumonia break your stride. If you're 50 or older, you're at increased risk. So be proactive with Capvaxive pneumococcal 21-valent conjugate vaccine to help protect against invasive pneumococcal disease and pneumonia caused by certain types of pneumococcal bacteria. Capvaxive helps protect against the strains of bacteria that cause about 30% more IPD cases than any other pneumococcal conjugate vaccine in adults over 50, according to national-level CDC stats. Regional variations may exist. Don't get Capvaxive if you're allergic to the vaccine or its ingredients. Tell your doctor if you have a weakened immune system. Common side effects include injection site reactions, feeling tired, headache, muscle aches, and fever. Capvaxive does not protect against all strains. For more information, call 1-800-927-8888 or visit capvaxive.com. Ask your doctor or pharmacist about Capvaxive. Need help paying for your Merck vaccine? Visit merckhelps.com. Sponsored by Merck.
Luxury awaits you at Tom Roush Lincoln and Fishers. Come see the full line of breathtaking Lincoln vehicles at Indiana's premier Lincoln dealership. From the moment you arrive at Tom Roush Lincoln, you'll know you've arrived. Shop over 200 new Lincolns in our state-of-the-art family-owned and operated dealership with no pressure. Just the award-winning service and respect you deserve, plus complimentary pickup and delivery for service. Luxury awaits you at Tom Roush Lincoln and Fishers.
Prescription opioids can be addictive and dangerous.
Opioid pain medication took everything that I had. Nothing mattered more than getting my fix. I was on the verge of being homeless. My house was being foreclosed on. Knowing that it could have been prevented makes it worse. It just takes one.
Prescription opioids. It only takes a little to lose a lot. Visit cdc.gov/RxAwareness.
1 in 4 Americans have a disability. I'm one of them. I'm also a working mom who cares deeply about making sure every child with a disability thrives by getting their access needs met. We've got a trusted ally by our side. Easter Seals provides children and families the foundation for lifelong success through early learning programs, skills training, and prep for college and career. That's my Easter Seals. Make it yours. Join us at easterseals.com.
Want to be part of the conversation without waiting on hold?
We're sorry. All of our representatives are still assisting other customers.
Join the Text Club. Direct access to your favorite WIBC show. Text WIBC to 317-239-9393. Now you've got a gun guy. Guy Relford on 93 WIBC.
And wrapping up this edition of the Gun Guy Show, I want to play a couple of clips, both from chief law enforcement officers in different jurisdictions. The first one is from a police chief in Canada. And as you know, Canada doesn't have a Second Amendment. Canada has largely banned handguns, certainly the quote-unquote assault weapons, right down the line. And they're really moving toward completely banning, or at least dramatically inhibiting, civilian gun ownership. Here's what a police chief in Canada says about you potentially experiencing a home invasion.
In the unlikely event that you find yourself the victim of a home invasion, we are urging citizens not to take matters into their own hands. While we don't want homeowners to feel powerless, we urge you to call 911 and do everything you can to keep yourself and loved ones safe until police arrive and be the best witness possible. This could mean locking yourself in a room away from the perpetrators, hiding, fleeing the home, but don't engage unless absolutely necessary. But as it stands, we know the best defense for most people is to comply, as you've just heard, a number of safety recommendations.
Okay, so a home invasion. So bad guys have forced their way into your home. And by the way, it varies perhaps a little bit province to province in Canada, but for the most part, there's no castle doctrine or ability to defend yourself. So you're supposed to either flee the home lock yourself up somewhere, don't engage, and pray for the best. And call 911 because, of course, the law enforcement is always minutes away when seconds count. Let's contrast that here where we have a Second Amendment, and in fact have a law enforcement official, my current favorite law enforcement official, Sheriff Grady Judd from Polk County, Florida.
But we have received information in social media that some of the criminals were going to take their criminal conduct into the neighborhoods. I would tell them, if you value your life, you probably shouldn't do that in Polk County, because the people of Polk County like guns. They have guns. I encourage them to own guns, and they're going to be in their homes tonight with their guns loaded. And if you try to break into their homes to steal, to set fires, I'm highly recommending they blow you back out of the house with their guns.
So if you're a budding, aspiring home invader, and you live in Canada, and you hear that first police chief go, well, you know what, we recommend, just comply. Just call 911 and hope for the best. Or you're that same aspiring home invader in Polk County, Florida, what do you think your reaction is? That's why we have a Second Amendment, among many other reasons. That's it for this week's show. Remember, always shoot straight, always be safe.
Why choose a Sleep Number smart bed?
Can I make my